From uptown Normal to downtown Bloomington, this is the Scott Miller Show. Here's Scott Miller.
AM 1230 WJBC, the Scott Miller Show is on the radio. He better be wearing a mask. I'd like to welcome to the show Senator Dick Durbin. Senator, good morning.
How you doing this morning?
What, are you wearing a mask?
Got one right in front of me.
What color is it?
Blue.
All right, fantastic. Hey, before we get into coronavirus talk, Senator Dick Durbin, the country lost a civil rights legend. Congressman John Lewis died at the age of 80 Friday. Have you had the opportunity to spend time with Congressman Lewis during his 33 years in office?
He was a dear friend of mine, and each year he would ask members of Congress, both political parties, Ray LaHood was part of it once, to take a pilgrimage back down to Selma, Alabama, where John was, of course, one of the marchers who almost died at that bridge during that period of the civil rights movement. And I was really lucky. I had to leave on an early Sunday morning flight, and I wasn't going to be able to go see the bridge with the group that had assembled. And John heard this, and he said, well, let's you and I go over together. Just drive over by ourselves. And so we got up at 6 in the morning, and there we were at 7 o'clock standing on that bridge, and John was pointing to the spot where he almost died. It's something I'll never forget. He was an amazing individual, a real inspiring person, and a very humble man. We're going to miss him.
Well, let me ask you really quick about that. As a politician, you are around for momentous things. You sign bills, you pass bills, you argue on the floor, you fight with the president, you support with the president. You get headlines all the time. Dick Durbin headline every day, Dick Durbin in the headlines. But that is a moment where you're standing with a legend, with an icon that was a part of a moment in this country that will be in history books forever, and you were standing in that exact spot with the man. That's got to be different than any headline you've ever gotten.
There are a handful of experiences I've had like that that they'll be with me forever. Certainly that moment with John Lewis, a day that I spent with Mother Teresa in Calcutta, just with one other member of Congress. I mean, it's true. I was lucky to be just a few feet away from Barack Obama when he was sworn in as president, and I've been in the Oval Office with many presidents. Those are all amazing moments, and I value every one of them. But something as simple as standing there and having John explain what it was like when those troopers turned on him and bashed him in the head and he fell to the ground. I mean, that to me is something I'll never forget.
Well, all these years later, George Floyd is in the headlines, and police took his life. It's a shame that this many years later, this is still a topic that needs to be discussed.
Scott, your listeners who are students of history know that slavery first came to our shores 400 years ago. And with it, it was motivated by greed and racism. And we have struggled with that moment, the arrival of slavery on our continent ever since. Fought a civil war with hundreds of thousands of Americans who died and went through a long period afterwards of discrimination and racism, Jim Crow, black codes, all the things that followed. And maybe, just maybe, at this moment in time, because of George Floyd, that 8-minute, 46-second moment, which we witnessed on videotape, there's no doubting what happened on that street, on that curbside. Maybe that is going to be a motivation that we need as a nation to really come out from under the shadow of racism. It will take more than just one incident, sadly. It will take determination by many to make sure that a future generation is not going to see this kind of racism in America. It's here. We should acknowledge it, and we should do everything in our power to put it behind us.
Well, it's not just one incident. These incidents have been happening for years and years and years. This one's just caught on video.
True. And, this is a grim reminder, but if you go and Google lynching Illinois, there were lynchings in our state. I won't get into detail. It involves central Illinois cities. And you never dreamed that it could happen in our part of the world. Oh, this must have been in the Deep South, way back when. No, it happened in our part of the world as well. And, we've got to be more honest about the reality of history. And if we are honest and we listen to the people who are walking in the streets now behind Black Lives Matter, they're black, white, and brown, young and old, standing up and saying to my generation and our generation, do something. We don't want to raise our children in the shadow of racism. Can we do it? Yes, we can. We absolutely can. But we have to have a feeling of both political parties that we've got to seize this moment.
The big topic here is school districts have announced their back-to-school plans with online and in-class options. The president has said he will withhold federal funding from school districts that don't fully open schools. Is that the right thing to do?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is a decision to be made by local school boards, local administrators, teachers, families, and students. The highest priority has to be the safety of these kids and the teachers in the classroom with them. That's the highest priority. And when this president threatens to cut off federal funds if they don't open their doors 5 days a week, that is an outrageous presidential mandate, which we should ignore. The highest priority is not the president's command. The highest priority is the safety of these kids. And my heart goes out to these school district administrators. I've talked to many of them. I've listened to them as they're interviewed. They are struggling to find the right way to do this so that the kids are safe. They don't want a whole classroom of kids coming down with this COVID-19 or their teachers to be threatened by just showing up and doing their duty in the classroom. We're trying our best to make this thing work. But the COVID-19 situation is real. Sadly, the areas of the country that ignored it and came back too soon, opening their economy, are paying a deadly price for it today. Let's be careful and do it right.
Well, let's talk about COVID-19 and a relief bill. Is there another one happening or not? Is it going to happen, or are you guys just goofing around out there?
It's going to happen. What'll be in it is still has to be determined, remains to be seen. I ran into the president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, coming into the building last night, in the Capitol building. He was sitting down. The Republicans are trying to decide what they want to put in the bill. I would have thought maybe they had that resolved, but they're still working on it. I'll give them some time. We're here for 3 weeks. We need to get it done. Ultimately, it won't be done until both political parties are seated at the table. That's how this is resolved. We've got to sit down together and make concessions and compromises. The last bill passed 96-0. I went back home to Central Illinois, and people said, well, for goodness sakes, you finally got something right. Both parties agreed on something. It wasn't perfect. We've changed it since, but it really was what needed to be done, and we did it on a bipartisan basis. I think that's exactly what people want to hear.
Well, if it doesn't happen, it's half your fault. You guys are 50% of the people, so
That's
if it
exactly
doesn't
right.
happen, it's half your fault. Get it done.
Scott, I take your advice seriously. I'm not at the table that I just described to you, but I'm pretty darn close to it, and I'll do everything I can to encourage it.
The federal unemployment bonus of $600 ends July 25th. Will this be extended? It's not like the impact of COVID-19 is over, so why should the bonus be over?
Exactly. You're exactly right. There are people who've lost their jobs. We think 47 million Americans, perhaps. 20 million of them are receiving this federal bonus of $600 a week over the state unemployment. It may sound like a bunch of money until you try to pay every bill that's coming across your desk and through the mail. $800 a week, and you take a look at the mortgage payment, the rental payment, the utility payment, buying some food, making sure you got some basics for the kids if they need clothing and everything like that. It isn't much. Just take a look at health insurance by itself. If you don't have something like Medicaid, the average health insurance premium for somebody who had it at work and lost their job is $1,700 a month. There's $400 a week plus that just goes out the window to keep your health insurance that you once had. So let's get real. This is a hardship on a lot of American families. They need our help. They would love to go back to work and make this much money or more. It's not available to them at this moment. We need to stand by these families.
Senator Durbin, the big news here in Illinois are the allegations against Illinois Speaker Mike Madigan. Authorities on Friday announced a $200 million settlement with ComEd officials who admitted to hiring cronies, offering payouts, and awarding contracts to cronies of allegedly Madigan. Madigan has denied any wrongdoing, but where there's smoke, there's fire. What's your take?
John Losh is the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District who made the announcement. Tammy Duckworth and I had the responsibility of choosing that U.S. Attorney, and we picked him. His background is as a Republican leader, but he is widely respected by Democrats and Republicans, being a real professional and a man of character. I believe he is doing the right thing and doing a good job. Tammy Duckworth and I both said, Mr. Losh, now you're the U.S. Attorney, you're not going to hear from us. You don't need politicians pushing or pulling you in any direction. do your job and do it as best you can. And I believe he has. The allegations behind this are extremely serious. If they are proven, clearly those parties who will be named later, no one's been charged yet with any crime, but we can see where the arrows are pointing. If there is proof of guilt, so be it. That's the end of political dynasty, if that's the way it ends.
Before I let you go, baseball this week. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready. I can't tell you. Last night I'm watching the Orioles and the Nationals play to an empty field up in Baltimore, and I'm saying, thank goodness they're batting again and pitching again. I think it's going to be a relief for a lot of us who are so starved for sports.
Well, Senator Durbin, get us another relief bill. We're staring at you. Let's make it happen.
You put the pressure on me, Scott. That's exactly why I'm here. Thanks a lot.
It's AM 1230, WJBC.